I accidentally started a rumor that ruined someone's marriage and I don't know how to undo it. Last month, during a casual lunch break at work, I accidentally started a rumor that ended up ruining someone's marriage. Now I'm grappling with guilt as I watch the fallout spiral out of control. If I could undo it, I would in a heartbeat, but life isn't that kind. For context, I work in a mid-sized office think open floor plan. A handful of departments, the usual office drama. There's a coworker, Mike, who's always been a bit of a gossip and jokester. We're not close friends, but we banter. He's married to Lisa, who coincidentally started working here a few months ago in a different department. One day, a group of us were eating lunch in the break room. The conversation turned to a new guy, James, who's young, good-looking, and, frankly, a notorious flirt. We joked about how half the office had a crush on James, including some married folks. This was all in good fun, nothing serious. At some point, someone said, even Lisa seems charmed by him, because we had seen her laughing at James's jokes in the hallway earlier. Now, here's where I made my fatal error. With a mouth half full of sandwich, I chuckled and said, haha, yeah, she probably has a secret office boyfriend by now. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. It was said in a totally unserious tone, pure joking hyperbole. I didn't mean a shred of it. But guess who was walking into the break room right at that moment? Yep, Mike. He caught the tail end. Basically just, Lisa, secret office boyfriend, and stopped dead in his tracks. Our laughter died immediately. You could hear a pin drop. Mike's face went through a series of emotions. Confusion, surprise, a flicker of hurt. He tried to play it cool, like, what are you guys talking about? I panicked. We all panicked. One coworker, bless her, tried to smooth it over with a, just dumb jokes. But the damage was done. Mike sat down with us, but the vibe was awkward beyond saving. He barely touched his food and left early. We exchanged looks, silently agreeing we'd majorly messed up. I figured I'd screwed up my relationship with Mike, but I severely underestimated what would happen next. That afternoon, I saw Mike and Lisa having a tense conversation in a corner of the office. Mike looked upset, Lisa looked defensive. My stomach dropped. Did he actually take my dumb joke seriously and confront her? It seemed impossible, but by 3 p.m., the rumor mill was in full swing. Someone from HR, who's friends with Lisa, mentioned that Mike accused Lisa of cheating with James. My heart sank to my feet. I hoped maybe it'd blow over as a misunderstanding. Mike would realize it was a dumb joke, or Lisa would calm him down. Nope. The next day, neither Mike nor Lisa came to work. By lunchtime, everyone had heard they were having problems. A mutual friend told me Lisa was staying at her sister's after a huge fight with Mike. The rumor I started, the one-liner quip, had grown legs, wings, and fangs. Mike apparently told Lisa that people at work suspected she had an office boyfriend. Lisa, I'm told, flipped out that Mike would believe such a thing. They had a nasty argument, and it ended with Mike telling her not to come home with him that night if she was just going to run off to her boyfriend. Jesus Christ. I was mortified. I wanted to find Mike immediately and explain, clarify, grovel, something. But he wasn't at work, and I didn't have the guts to call or text him out of the blue to admit I basically started the whole thing. Maybe that was cowardly, but I was terrified. I kept hoping they'd talk it out and realize it was a misunderstanding, not worth blowing up a marriage over. Instead, things got worse. Mike came back to work 2 days later, looking like hell-red eyes, unshaven, miserable. We work in different departments, so I only saw him in passing. I didn't approach him yet. Then I noticed James, the guy at the center of this, was acting weird too. He's normally Mr. Charismatic, but he was keeping his head down, doing his work, and jetting out as soon as 5 o'clock hit. Later I learned why. Mike confronted James outside of work hours. From what I pieced together, Mike found James at the gym. They both go to the same one after work, and accused him of messing around with Lisa. Apparently, it got heated like in each other's faces heated. According to a gym buddy who witnessed it, James pushed Mike, and Mike took a swing. They ended up being separated by other gym goers. Just unbelievable. HR got wind of the fight. Maybe James told them, fearing it'd spill into the workplace. Now management was involved, reminding everyone of the company code of conduct and how out-of-office conflicts could still result in disciplinary action if it affected work. It was a huge mess, and I felt utterly responsible. My stupid joke had snowballed into all-out chaos. A marriage on the rocks, a workplace fight, HR involved. I was in over my head. Finally, I gathered the courage to talk to Mike. I rehearsed a whole speech in my head about how sorry I was for the misunderstanding, but when I found him in the break room, empty, thankfully, it all fell apart. He looked up at me with his exhaustion and anger. Before I even spoke, he said, "If you're here to tell me more about my wife's office boyfriend, just save it." His voice was raw. I blurted, "Mike, I am so sorry. That was a stupid joke. I swear Lisa and James aren't—" He cut me off. "You don't know anything. Were you in our home? In our marriage?" "Then shut the hell up." I'd never heard Mike speak to anyone like that, let alone me. I stood there, mouth open, as he grabbed his coffee and brushed past me. I felt like scum. After that, I confided in one of our coworkers who was also at the lunch when I made the joke. She sympathized, but said something that stuck. "This has gone way beyond you now. Even if you try to fix it, you might just make it worse. Maybe give him space?" She had a point. I wasn't a close friend or family. I was just a coworker who put my foot in my mouth. Maybe any further interference would pour gas on the fire? So I stepped back. Weeks passed. Mike and Lisa continued this downward spiral, and I watched helplessly from the sidelines. They both became withdrawn at work, obviously not speaking to each other. Lisa even took a leave of absence for a week. Rumors, oh, the irony, flew around that she was meeting with a divorce attorney. Someone said they saw her removing pictures of Mike from her desk. Mike, on the other hand, started drinking more. We have a bar nearby, a lot of us go to. He'd be there nightly, looking depressed. The guilt was eating me alive. I lost sleep. I started screwing up on my own tasks because I was so distracted by this guilt cloud. Finally, I couldn't take it. I know my coworker advised to give space, but I had to try to do something to set things right, or at least apologize properly. I decided to approach Lisa instead of Mike. She and I were friendly enough, though not super close. She had returned to work by then. I caught her after work one day as she was leaving and asked if we could talk. She looked reluctant, but agreed to grab a coffee at a quiet cafe nearby. Sitting across from her, I finally apologized. Truly apologized. For the stupid remark. I told her everything. The context, the intent, or lack thereof, how awful I felt that it had caused all this. I half expected her to chew me out, but she just looked. Sad. "It's not your fault," she said quietly. "Not entirely, at least. There were issues before. But this certainly didn't help." She explained that her marriage with Mike had been strained for months. They'd been bickering, trust was low. Apparently Mike had some jealousy issues from a past incident years ago. My comment was like lighting a match in a room full of gas. She insisted nothing ever happened with James. "He's not even my type. I barely know the guy," she said, exasperated. But Mike latched onto the idea so hard that it made her furious he'd believe she'd cheat so easily. I asked if they'd considered counseling, or at least sitting down to talk it out calmly. She gave a hollow laugh. "He won't. He's convinced himself I had an affair. He's not the man I thought he was, if he can think so little of me." I wanted to defend Mike a bit, say that he was hurt and maybe prideful and confused, but I held my tongue. Not my place. Instead, I asked gently, "Is it really over between you two?" Lisa stared at her coffee. "I don't know," she whispered. "We haven't been under the same roof for 3 weeks now. He doesn't want to see me. Just last week, he told me he needs time to think if he even wants this marriage." Her eyes glistened and she wiped a tear. I felt awful. We ended the talk on a somber note. I expressed again how deeply sorry I was. She nodded and even thanked me for apologizing, saying a lot of people wouldn't have bothered. I left feeling a bit lighter that at least she heard me out, but also heavier knowing their marriage woes went beyond my screw-up. I thought that might be the end of my involvement. But life had other plans. One evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Mike's brother, whom I'd never met. He said Mike was at his place, really not doing okay, and had mentioned the work rumor situation. His brother basically asked me what the hell happened, because Mike's version was muddled and he was worried. Apparently Mike was drinking and despairing, and his brother was desperate to help. I swallowed my pride and recounted everything to this stranger, how my stupid joke spiraled, how none of it was true. Mike's brother listened quietly, then thanked me. He said something like, "I thought it was something like this. Mike can get these ideas in his head. He's had issues since our dad left Mom for another woman. He's terrified of being cheated on." That bit of background made me feel even more terrible for inadvertently poking Mike's trauma. His brother said he'd try to talk sense into him. Another week passed. I wasn't sure what was happening at their home front, but at work, the tension was palpable whenever Mike and Lisa were in the same room, which was rare. We had a small company party for a team success, and they pointedly avoided each other. It was awkward as hell. Then, the breaking point. One day, Lisa didn't show up. We assumed another personal day, but around 11 a.m., police officers came to the office. They went to Mike's desk and escorted him out. The whole office was abuzz. Did Mike do something? Was he arrested? I got the scoop later from HR. Again, small company, word travels fast. Turns out, Lisa had been staying with her sister, and that morning, Mike showed up there, drunk, causing a scene. Neighbors called the cops. It wasn't an arrest per se, more like a detainment to cool him off. But HR was informed because it involved 2 employees and law enforcement. They decided to put Mike on a short leave to get his stuff together. This was the absolute nadir of the situation. I went home that day and cried, out of frustration, guilt, and just the heavy sadness of it all. Who could have predicted a dumb joke would lead here? I felt like I had detonated a bomb in these people's lives, and it was too late to defuse it. Update 1, I didn't plan to update because I was honestly drowning in regret. But a few people reached out asking for any news on the Mike and Lisa saga, so here goes. It's been another couple of weeks, and things have changed. After the incident with the police, the company higher-ups mandated that Mike and Lisa take some time off. It's a liability thing, too. They don't want domestic disputes spilling into the workplace. Both were put on a sort of leave of absence. The atmosphere at work calmed down, and for a few days, it was like everyone tried to pretend nothing ever happened, though you could practically see the thought bubbles above people's heads whenever their names were mentioned. I spent that time soul-searching. I even considered quitting my job, partly out of guilt, partly fear that if/when they return, it would just be too awkward. But ultimately, I decided to stick it out and face the music, whatever that may be. One day, out of the blue, I got a text from Mike's number. It just said, "Hey, can we talk? I promise not to bite your head off." I stared at it for a solid minute. It was such an uncharacteristically light tone considering everything that I thought maybe someone else, like his brother, was texting from his phone. I replied, "Sure. Call or meet." He said he was at the coffee shop across from the office. It was around 4 p.m. I guess he figured I was still working, and asked if I could join him. I told my boss I had to step out for a quick errand. Luckily, things were slow, and I went to meet Mike, heart pounding. He was sitting at a corner table, nursing a cup, looking tired. But when he saw me, he gave a small, strained smile. It wasn't the look of a man ready to bite my head off, at least. I sat down, bracing myself. The first thing out of my mouth was, "Mike, But he held up a hand. "Let me start," he said. He took a breath and began, "I owe you an apology. I was way out of line, and I know it. None of this was your fault. It was mine." To say I was shocked is an understatement. I started to protest that I was the one who started it, but he shook his head. He then opened up completely. He said finding out about the joke and rumor hit a raw nerve for him, confirming what his brother told me about his past. He admitted he'd been paranoid about Lisa and James even before my dumb comment. Apparently he noticed them chatting a couple of times, and his mind went to dark places. So in a way, he said, he was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I inadvertently dropped it. He told me about how he's been talking to a therapist, thank God. The therapist helped him see how he jumped to conclusions and how his own insecurities and past issues were the main drivers here. He also said his brother, "Go, bro," gave him a real tough love talk about pushing away the woman he loves over nothing. I listened, nodding, absorbing it all. Then he said something that truly lifted the weight off my chest. "I know now that there was nothing between Lisa and James. It was all in my head. Your joke was just that. A joke. A dumb one," he added with a slight smirk. "But just a joke." I almost collapsed in relief. I apologized again anyway. Because yeah, it was a dumb joke and I truly regretted it. He actually chuckled and said, "Believe me, compared to the stuff I've done these past weeks, your part in this was minor." That was generous of him. Naturally, I had to ask, "How are things with Lisa?" He sighed, stirring his cold coffee. "It's not great, but maybe improving. We've talked a lot more in the past few days than we did in weeks. I've apologized to her, repeatedly. She's understandably hurt, and not ready to just forgive and forget. I broke her trust more than she ever broke mine, ironically. He told me he was staying at his brother's and going to keep doing therapy. Lisa was still at her sister's. They were basically separated but talking. They even had a joint therapy session scheduled for the following week, something Mike never thought he'd agree to, but he's committed to it now. I was glad to hear that. It sounded like progress, however fragile. Before we parted, Mike insisted I come over to his brother's place that weekend for a barbecue. Apparently the brother was hosting some family thing. "Lisa might come too," he said. "It could be. I don't know, good or horribly awkward, but maybe good." I was hesitant. Me and Lisa in the same space as them? Socially. It felt weird. But he seemed earnest, like he wanted to sort of normalize things and show there were no hard feelings. I agreed to drop by, at least for a bit. That weekend, I showed up to the barbecue with a humble six-pack and a lot of nerves. It was a small gathering. Mike, his brother and sister-in-law, their dad, didn't expect that, and yes, the same dad who apparently cheated on their mom awkward, and Lisa, who had indeed come. When I arrived, Lisa was chatting with Mike's sister-in-law. I approached cautiously, but she greeted me with a polite smile. Not exactly warm, but not icy. I'll take it. Honestly, the afternoon went okay. A little stiff at times, but okay. We mostly talked about benign topics, work gossip, other gossip not involving them, sports, that kind of thing. I noticed Mike and Lisa being civil, even kind to each other. No obvious PDA or anything. But they shared a blanket at one point when the evening chill set in, which I took as a good sign. At one point, Mike's dad, who had been drinking steadily, made a dumb joke alluding to the situation. Something like, "So no mysterious office boyfriends here, right?" I nearly choked on my drink, and an awkward silence fell. But then Lisa laughed. She laughed! And said, "No, not here. We leave those at the office." Everyone busted up. I think humor, dark as it was, kind of broke the remaining tension. I left that barbecue feeling cautiously optimistic. If Mike and Lisa could joke about it, maybe they could heal. Back at work the next week, Mike and Lisa both returned. They arrived together. Together! They weren't all smiles and lovey-dovey, but I caught them chatting calmly in the lobby before going to their respective departments. Word spread quickly that they were working on things. You know how offices are. When the dramatic saga loses steam, people lose interest. And that's exactly what happened. Once Mike and Lisa were seen together, a new normal settled in, and the gossip shifted to other things, like our boss's rumored promotion. Over the next days, I interacted with both just for work stuff, nothing heavy. Things felt normal-ish. One day, Lisa actually popped by my desk and thanked me for meeting with Mike and for coming to the barbecue. "I know this whole thing started with what you said, but it also kind of ended with you," she said. "So, thanks." I nearly teared up. It's now been a couple of weeks since then. Last I heard, Mike and Lisa are in counseling and taking it day by day. They even went on a weekend trip to try and reconnect. It's not all sunshine trust rebuilt after it's broken is tough. But they're trying, and I'm rooting for them hard. As for me, I learned a heavy lesson about how careless words can have real consequences. I'm much more careful now with jokes, especially about sensitive topics like relationships. And I'm so thankful that it seems to be turning out okay. Or at least, not as disastrously as it was. To those who asked if I might get in trouble at work for starting this rumor, management never officially knew I was the origin. At least, no one told them formally. And Mike assured me he had no intention of dragging me or anyone into it. He realized the problem was him, not the coworkers. So it looks like I'm in the clear, job-wise. The real punishment was the guilt and stress, which I wouldn't wish on anyone. I'll update if any major developments happen, but hopefully, the next time I talk about Mike and Lisa, it'll be at the renewal of vows or something. Too optimistic? Maybe. But let me dream. Update 2. I wasn't sure if another update was needed, but a surprising development happened that felt like the final chapter, or epilogue, of this saga. It's been a couple of months since my last update. Strap in for what I think is a rather heartwarming conclusion. Because yes, it involves forgiveness and even a bit of office camaraderie. Mike and Lisa continued with counseling. At work, they maintained professionalism. Over these months, they slowly rebuilt trust. You'd catch small moments. Mike bringing Lisa a coffee in the morning. Lisa straightening Mike's tie in the lobby reflection. Tiny things that hinted at healing. It made me happy to see, considering where we started. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, focusing on work and being a generally better human. Mike and I were cool again, joking lightly in passing, though neither of us brought up the incident explicitly. Lisa and I were friendly, but understandably not close. Still, there was no animosity. The surprising development came last Friday. Our company has a tradition of a little toast on Fridays at 5 p.m. if something notable happens, usually led by our boss or team leads. That day, our boss announced a small gathering in the common area. We all thought it was just the usual end-of-week cheer. To my shock, Mike was the one who cleared his throat and spoke. He thanked everyone for support over the last months. Without diving into details, it was tactfully phrased. Then he looked at Lisa across the room and said something like, "I especially want to thank my wife for her patience and for giving me another chance." You could hear a pin drop. Lisa smiled, a bit teary-eyed. Then Lisa stepped up next to him. We were all watching like an audience now and said she wanted to share some news. She's pregnant. The room exploded in cheers and claps. I was genuinely stunned. In a happy way. Mike was beaming for the first time in ages. They hugged, and it was such a genuine, emotional moment. Of course, office people being nosy. Someone jokingly asked, "So is that why you two were fighting? Who's the father?" It was an attempt at humor that drew some awkward chuckles. But Mike, without missing a beat, quipped back, "I sure hope it's mine. Otherwise, the office boyfriend's child support is going to be wild." The room roared with laughter. I think that was his way of publicly putting the rumor to rest once and for all, by turning it into a joke himself. It felt like a full circle moment. I caught his eye during the laughter, and he gave me a subtle nod and wink. Afterward, as people milled around offering congratulations, I went up and hugged both Mike and Lisa. Maybe a bit too bold, but emotions were high. I told Lisa congrats, and she hugged me back warmly. We didn't need words, but I think we both felt a weight lift completely. Mike pulled me aside briefly and said, "Crazy how things turn out, huh? If this isn't proof that we're okay, I don't know what is." "Water under the bridge?" I laughed. "More like an ocean under the bridge, man. I'm just so happy for you guys." He then added, "One day we'll tell our kid that a joke almost ended mom and dad, but actually kind of saved them in the end. Though, maybe we'll wait until they're 30, he joked. So yeah, that's the big news. Mike and Lisa are expecting, and far as I can tell, they're solid. Maybe the scare of almost losing each other jolted them into realizing what matters. They worked through their issues, and it seems like they're coming out stronger. I know life isn't a movie and not every story wraps up neatly, but this one feels hopeful and resolved. I couldn't have imagined this outcome when I was in the thick of guilt and they were separated. It's a relief and joy to see where we are now. I'm deeply grateful to everyone who gave advice and perspective when I first shared this. You all helped me keep my head straight. And I'm extra grateful to Mike and Lisa for finding it in their hearts to forgive each other. And, indirectly, me, for all the hurt.